Another day, another U.S. F-35 under scrutiny as Iran-linked claims swirl around a fresh emergency involving the stealth jet near Hormuz. Trump's F-35 reportedly made a hard landing in the United Arab Emirates after operating near the Strait of Hormuz. For the second time in 24 hours, a U.S. F-35 reportedly triggered the 7700 emergency code, fueling new questions around America's so-called invisible jet in the Gulf theater. A U.S. F-35 Lightning II fighter jet reportedly made an emergency landing in the UAE on May 11th after an in-flight issue near the Strait of Hormuz. The American fighter is said to have transmitted the emergency transponder code 7700 before diverting toward the UAE. The Cradle and other reports said the emergency code was transmitted while the jet was operating near the Strait of Hormuz. The Cradle reported, and I quote, "After declaring the emergency this morning, the aircraft changed course from the direction of the Gulf of Oman toward the United Arab Emirates. The jet stopped transmitting while in UAE airspace and made a hard landing at Dhafra Air Base. U.S. officials have not yet issued a statement," unquote. The code 7700 is the international transponder signal pilots use to declare a general emergency in flight. Notably, reports describe this as the second time in roughly 24 hours that a U.S. F-35 transmitted the code 7700 in the region. A U.S. Air Force F-35 Lightning II reportedly transmitted the emergency code 7700 on May 10th, suggesting a possible in-flight emergency during heightened regional tensions. The 7700 code was reportedly transmitted while the aircraft was flying over or near the Sea of Oman, according to claims circulating in regional and flight tracking-based reports. Iran's Fars news agency and affiliated reporting have pushed the latest incident into the spotlight as tensions remain elevated across the Gulf. Fars news agency said, and I quote, "Minutes ago, a U.S. Air Force F-35 Lightning II fighter jet transmitted emergency code 7700 while flying over the Sea of Oman. The transmission of this code indicates the presence of an emergency and urgent situation that requires landing," unquote. The reported emergency came on the same day a bulk carrier was hit in the region, adding to a sense of mounting instability around key Gulf transit routes. The incident triggered a small fire on board, according to the UKMTO statement, though all crew were reported safe. The vessel was hit while sailing northeast of Doha, Qatar, with UKMTO advisories in similar incidents placing the strike zone in waters off Qatar. UK Maritime Trade Operations Organisation said, and I quote, "UKMTO has received a report of an incident 23 nm northeast of Doha, Qatar. The master of a bulk carrier reports being hit by an unknown projectile. There was a small fire that has been extinguished. There are no casualties. There is no reported environmental impact. Authorities are investigating. Vessels are advised to transit with caution and report any suspicious activity to UKMTO," unquote. The incident came amid heightened regional tensions following fresh IRGC warnings about retaliation in Gulf waters. Iran's IRGC has issued a sharp warning against any attacks on the nation's oil tankers or commercial vessels, framing them as a red line in the ongoing standoff with the United States. Tehran threatened that any fresh strike on Iranian shipping would trigger a heavy attack on U.S. military bases and allied warships operating in the region. The IRGC Aerospace Force added that its missiles and drones have already locked onto designated targets, according to a statement carried by Press TV. Brigadier General Saeed Majid Mousavi, a senior IRGC commander, said Iranian forces are now waiting for the final order to fire, emphasizing that the weapons are pre-targeted and ready. The senior commander described the U.S. military buildup around the Gulf as a direct provocation against Iran, arguing that it is designed to coerce rather than stabilize the region. Iran said the warning sends a crystal-clear message that Tehran will not tolerate any further aggression against its maritime or energy infrastructure. The threat followed a series of confrontations near the port of Jask after U.S. forces targeted Iranian ships and tankers engaged in regional transit. Iran claimed that the IRGC Navy responded with a precise and overwhelming counter-operation, intended to reverse the impact of the U.S. strikes. The alleged response reportedly included anti-ship ballistic missiles, cruise missiles, and high-explosive drones deployed against tracked vessels and support assets. Iranian media claimed that the strikes forced US warships to retreat from the area in disarray, portraying the engagement as a tactical setback for Washington. Tehran also accused Washington of threatening regional maritime security and key shipping lanes, arguing that US operations create the main source of instability in the Gulf. The IRGC added that only sea corridors authorized by Iran are considered safe for transit through the Strait of Hormuz, insisting that vessels must comply with Tehran's controls. Iran warned that any foreign force making a hostile move in the designated maritime zone would face immediate confrontation, leaving no room for ambiguity in its stance. Meanwhile, Donald Trump responded with a series of cryptic posts on Truth Social, hinting at future military steps and raising fears that the exchange could trigger further escalation. Iran's new threats came as Trump said he might restart Project Freedom in the Strait of Hormuz, suggesting a return to his plan to guide stranded ships through the waterway.
We may go back to Project Freedom if things don't happen, but should it be Project Freedom Plus, meaning Project Freedom Plus other?
Donald Trump has announced the launch of Project Freedom, a UN-led initiative aimed at helping dozens of merchant ships stranded in and around the Strait of Hormuz, starting from May 4th. Trump described the operation as a humanitarian gesture intended to assist neutral country vessels and their crews caught in the war zone, many of which are running low on supplies while waiting for safe passage. However, US officials later clarified to outlets such as the Wall Street Journal that Project Freedom would not involve direct naval escorts in the way his initial remarks implied. Instead, the White House outlined the creation of a maritime coordination cell that will identify and share safe routes through the strait, clear of mines and high-risk areas, while coordinating with commercial shipping lines and allied navies. This signals a more limited, advisory role for the US military than the image of warships physically shepherding tankers through the choke point that Trump's announcement initially suggested. Subsequently, Trump announced he was halting Project Freedom just 36 hours after its launch, citing progress in negotiations and pressure from regional allies. As tensions continue to rise across the Gulf region, reports on May 5th claimed that a key US military aircraft disappeared while flying over the area. A Boeing KC-135 stratotanker reportedly transmitted an emergency squawk code while operating above the Persian Gulf. According to Flight Radar 24 data, the aircraft issued the internationally recognized 7700 distress signal during the flight. In global aviation protocols, a 7700 squawk code typically indicates a serious in-flight emergency requiring urgent attention. The refueling tanker had reportedly departed from Dhafra Air Base in the UAE before losing signal coverage over Qatar. Tracking information further suggested that the KC-135 entered a circular holding pattern before descending from radar visibility. Reports claimed the aircraft may have been attempting stabilization procedures ahead of a possible emergency landing. Authorities have not yet disclosed what exactly triggered the emergency situation involving the American military aircraft. Iranian outlet Fast News also reported the alleged disappearance of the U.S. Air Force refueling tanker. However, neither Washington nor Tehran has officially commented on the status of the KC-135 so far. The last reported loss involving a US KC-135 tanker occurred during Iran's attack in western Iraq in March 2026. Reports also claimed that another US Air Force refueling aircraft, a KC-46A Pegasus, may have encountered trouble in the region. Iran's Fast News alleged that the KC-46A similarly transmitted the 7700 emergency code while flying over the Persian Gulf. The aircraft reportedly carried out an emergency landing in Saudi Arabia instead of continuing toward Tel Aviv. As with the KC-135 incident, there remains no official explanation regarding the cause of the reported emergency involving the jet.